I never thought I'd be the guy posting here, but I'm running on 3 hours of sleep, and my brain won't shut up. I'm 34M, my wife is 32F, together for 9 years, married for 6. From the outside, we look boring in a good way. Shared grocery lists, Sunday meal prep, arguing about paint colors instead of money. That's why this feels unreal. The first cracks didn't look like cheating. They looked like stress. She said work was a nightmare, started staying late, stopped texting back during the day. When I asked if she was okay, she'd sigh like I was a child asking why the sky is blue and say, "Not everything is about you." That sentence comes back a lot, apparently. She also started rewriting history in small ways. Jokes she used to laugh at were suddenly things I've always hated. Plans we made together, she claimed we never talked about them. I chalked it up to burnout. I wanted to be supportive, so I picked up more chores, cooked more, talked less. The weirdest part was how kind she became right before she was cruel. One night she hugged me out of nowhere, said, "You're lucky I'm so patient with you." I laughed it off. I shouldn't have. Looking back, it's embarrassing how hard I worked to explain away the red flags. She guarded her phone like it contained nuclear codes, face down on every surface. Bathroom door locked when she showered, even though we'd never done that before. If I walked into a room unexpectedly, she'd flinch, then snap, "Can I have privacy for once?" Like I'd committed a crime. She also became weirdly critical of me. Not big stuff. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. The way I chewed. How I folded towels wrong. One night she told me, completely serious, that I had emotionally regressed since we got married. When I asked what that meant, she rolled her eyes and said, "See, this is why talking to you is exhausting." Then came the gaslighting Olympics. I'd noticed she smelled different, new cologne, not hers, and she'd say I was imagining things. I found a receipt for a restaurant we never went to. She said it was a work lunch, then later said she'd eaten alone in her car. When I pointed out the contradiction, she accused me of interrogating her. The twist? She started accusing me of cheating. Asked why I was suddenly so paranoid. Told me if I didn't trust her, maybe we shouldn't be together. That shut me up fast. I was scared of pushing her away, not realizing she was already gone. I didn't go looking for proof. I swear that matters to me, even if it won't anyone else. The discovery happened on a random Tuesday because her car wouldn't start. She asked me to take it to the shop while she took mine to work. Normal, boring marriage stuff. In the glove compartment, I was looking for the insurance card when her phone buzzed. I know, I didn't unlock it. I didn't need to. The notification preview was enough. Last night was insane. Same time tomorrow. Heart emoji, not a coworker vibe. My hand started shaking so hard I dropped the phone. I sat there for a full minute convincing myself there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was a group chat. Maybe I was losing my mind like she'd been saying. Then I noticed the second phone. Burner. No case. No password. Just sitting under the passenger seat like she wanted it to be found. That's the twist that still messes with me. Inside were weeks of messages, photos I can't unsee, and voice notes calling him the only adult in her life. Another twist, there were messages about me, laughing at how easy I was to manipulate, planning what lies to tell if I ever caught on. By the time I got to the shop, I was already mourning a marriage that apparently died long before I noticed. I didn't confront her right away. I wish I could say it was strategic, but honestly I was dissociating. I put the phone back exactly where it was, fixed the car, went home, and cooked dinner like a ghost pretending to be a husband. She came in cheerful, kissed my cheek, and said, "You look tense. Long day." I almost laughed. After we ate, I asked, as calmly as I could, "Is there anything you want to tell me?" She didn't even pause. Nope. Straight face. Zero nerves. That hurt more than yelling would have. So I said his name. Her reaction wasn't panic. It was annoyance. Like I'd brought up a topic she was tired of explaining. She sighed and said, "I was wondering when you'd snoop." I told her I hadn't. She smirked and said, "Sure you didn't." Then the lies came fast. He was just a friend. The messages were out of context. The photos were old. When I mentioned the burner phone, she froze for half a second, then pivoted, said I planted it, said I was having a breakdown. At one point, she actually said, "You've always had this victim fantasy." The biggest twist? She started crying, not because she cheated, but because I had violated her privacy. Somehow, within 10 minutes, I was apologizing. That's when I realized how deep this went. That night didn't end with closure. It ended with her going to bed early and telling me not to spiral. I slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation from the last year like it was evidence in a trial where I was both judge and defendant. The next morning was the first real emotional whiplash. She woke me up with coffee, actual coffee, sat next to me and spoke softly, like she was handling a wounded animal. Said she was sorry I was hurting. Not sorry she cheated. Sorry I felt bad. Subtle difference. But it landed like a punch. Then came a twist I wasn't ready for. She admitted some of it. Yes, there was another guy. Yes, it had been physical. But only a few times. Only because she felt emotionally neglected. She said she tried to tell me for years that I wasn't enough for her. So really, this was a communication failure on both sides. I started crying. Ugly crying. She didn't comfort me. She watched, arms crossed, and said, "See? This is why I couldn't talk to you. Everything becomes about your feelings." That's when anger finally broke through the fog. Not explosive rage. Something colder. I realized she wasn't confused. She wasn't remorseful. She was managing damage, adjusting the story in real time to keep control. And for the first time, I wondered if I'd ever actually known my wife at all. Once she admitted a little, the rest of the lies got sloppy. That's another twist I didn't expect. I assumed she'd either fully confess or double down. Instead, she did this weird middle thing where every truth came with 3 revisions. She said it was only a few weeks. I checked the burner again. Months? When I pointed that out, she shrugged and said time felt different with him. She claimed he meant nothing. Then I found a message where she told him she was counting down until she could leave me. When I read that line out loud, she snapped, "Why are you obsessing over old texts?" Then came the nuclear twist. She told me he had manipulated her, that she was vulnerable, that he pressured her, that she didn't know how to say no. I almost believed it. I was halfway into comforting her when I remembered the voice notes, her laughing, teasing, initiating. When I brought those up, her face went flat. She told me I was cruel for using her lowest moments against her. She said any decent husband would be focusing on saving the marriage instead of building a case. Somehow, the narrative shifted again. I wasn't betrayed spouse. I was a prosecutor ruining our chance at healing. That's when I felt something new alongside the pain. Clarity. Every version of her story had one constant. None of this was ever really her fault. By day 3, the story had fully settled. And guess who was the villain? According to her, the affair wasn't a betrayal. The real betrayal was my reaction. I was unstable. Obsessive, emotionally unsafe. She started using therapy language like weapons, diagnosing me mid-argument, said I had abandonment issues, said my insecurity pushed her away, said I created an environment where lying was the only option. Here's the twist that still makes my stomach drop. She told her friends first. I found out because one of them texted me, not to ask if I was okay, but to say, maybe give her some space. You can be intense. Apparently, she'd already framed me as controlling and paranoid. The cheating? A mistake. My hurt? Proof I was exactly why she strayed. When I confronted her about that, she didn't deny it. She said she needed support and couldn't trust me to tell the story fairly. She actually suggested couples therapy, not to fix things, but to help you take accountability. That was the moment something snapped into place. I wasn't dealing with someone who made bad choices and felt guilty. I was dealing with someone who could hurt me, watch me bleed emotionally, and still believe, honestly believe, that she was the victim. And once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. Another twist hit when I finally stopped avoiding the obvious question. Who was this guy? I already knew his name, but names are abstract until they aren't. I did something I'm not proud of and looked him up. Turns out he wasn't some random coworker or bar flirt. He was a divorced dad from her gym, someone I'd waved at, someone who once spotted me during a bench press and joked about marriage weight. The punchline? He thought we were separated. I found that out because he messaged me, not to apologize, at least not at first, but to ask why my wife was freaking out and accusing him of ruining her life. That's when the stories finally collided. She'd told him I was emotionally abusive, that we lived like roommates, that the marriage was basically over, and I just couldn't let go. I sent him screenshots. Not everything, just enough. He called me. He sounded stunned. Said she told him she was filing for divorce. Said she promised him a future. Said she cried about me controlling her. Another twist. The same word she used on me, just flipped. When I confronted her with this, she exploded, not in shame, rage. Screamed that I'd turned them against each other, that I'd sabotaged her happiness. In that moment, it became painfully clear. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was an obstacle. I thought once the fact were out, I'd feel better, vindicated, stronger. Instead, I crashed. Hard. All the adrenaline drained out of me and left this heavy, aching silence. I'd wake up and forget for half a second, then remember everything at once and feel like I couldn't breathe. She noticed and used it. Sudden twist. She became concerned, told me I should see someone, said she was worried I was depressed because of my guilt. She framed my grief as proof that I knew I'd failed her. When I couldn't eat, she said, "You always do this when things don't go your way." When I cried, she accused me of emotional manipulation. At my lowest point, she said something that still echoes in my head. "I cheated, yes, but you broke this marriage long before that." She said it calmly, like she was stating a fact everyone already agreed on. I started doubting my own memories. Was I really that bad? Had I missed something huge? Then another twist. My sister came over unannounced. She took one look at me, unshaven, hollow-eyed, and pulled me aside. She said, "This isn't what guilt looks like. This is trauma." That word hit harder than any insult my wife had thrown at me. For the first time, I stopped trying to understand her and started trying to protect myself. After my sister left, something in me shifted. Not healed, not strong, just done. I stopped defending myself in conversations because I realized every explanation I gave her became new ammunition. Silence wasn't surrender, it was armor. That confused her. She kept trying to pull me back into the chaos. One minute she'd say she missed us and suggest a weekend away. The next, she'd accuse me of being cold and emotionally abusive for withholding communication. Twist. When I didn't react, she escalated. Picked fights over nothing. Claimed I was punishing her. Told me I was just like her ex, which was funny, considering she once said he was a villain too. I started quietly documenting everything. Dates, quotes, screenshots. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed proof for myself that I wasn't imagining things. Seeing it all written down was sobering. Patterns jumped out. The blame shifting. The contradictions. The way every conversation ended with me apologizing for being hurt. Then came another twist. She asked for a temporary break. Not separation. Not divorce. Just space. With rules that somehow only applied to me. I wasn't allowed to talk to anyone about our marriage. She was free to process however she needed. That night, alone in the spare room, I finally admitted the truth I've been avoiding. This wasn't a marriage in crisis. It was a marriage already over, and I was the only one still pretending otherwise. While she was processing, I started planning. Quietly, methodically. Another twist. The calmer I became, the more dangerous the situation felt. She wasn't sad anymore. She was strategic, asking casual questions about finances, suggesting we refinance together, floating the idea of selling the house and starting fresh. Every suggestion somehow left me with less. I called a lawyer during my lunch break and cried in my car afterward. Not because of the divorce talk, but because the lawyer kept saying things like, You're doing the right thing, and this is textbook. Hearing my marriage described as a pattern instead of tragedy was weirdly grounding. I opened a new bank account, changed my passwords, moved important documents to my sister's place. I hated myself for sneaking around, but here's the twist. She'd been sneaking for months, and I'd been honest to my own detriment. This wasn't betrayal. It was survival. When she noticed my distance, she softened again, told me she loved me, told me she cut him off, swore she wanted to rebuild. I asked for proof. She said trust doesn't work that way. That night, I saw a new message pop up on her phone. Different name, same heart emoji. I didn't confront her. I just knew. And for the first time since it started, the knowledge didn't break me. It clarified everything. The next morning, I told her I was done. No speech. No accusations. Just, I want a divorce. I expected fireworks. Tears. Bargaining. Another twist. She laughed. Not a big laugh. More like a scoff. She said, "You're being dramatic. You'll calm down." When she realized I wasn't backing down, the tone changed fast. She accused me of blindsiding her, said I was abandoning her during a mental health crisis, claimed she'd already cut him off, and this was my chance to prove I was different than everyone else who'd failed her. It was surreal watching her cycle through scripts like she was flipping channels. I told her I'd spoken to a lawyer. That landed. Her face went tight, controlled. She warned me not to make this ugly. Said divorces ruin people financially. Said she'd tell everyone how unstable I'd been if I pushed this. For a split second, old fear kicked in. Then something unexpected happened. I didn't care. I felt sad, yes, numb, but also lighter. Like I'd been holding my breath for months without realizing it. I packed a bag and went to my sister's place. As I closed the door behind me, she shouted that I'd regret this. Maybe I will in some ways, but for the first time, the regret won't be about staying. I thought leaving would feel dramatic, like a movie scene. Instead, it felt eerily calm. The first few days at my sister's place were just quiet. No tension humming in the background. No carefully chosen words. No waiting for the next emotional ambush. That silence was its own kind of twist. She didn't take the quiet well. Her messages started flooding in, long paragraphs alternating between rage and nostalgia. One minute she accused me of destroying our family. The next she was sending photos from our honeymoon with captions like, "Remember when you loved me?" When I didn't respond, she escalated, told me she'd spoken to friends who all agreed I was emotionally unavailable, claimed her therapist said I was avoidant and afraid of intimacy. I hadn't known she had a therapist. Then came the legal twist. She suddenly wanted to mediate informally, said lawyers would poison everything. When I declined, she accused me of trying to punish her. The pattern was almost boring by then. Control wrapped in concern. Meanwhile, I started sleeping again, eating, laughing at stupid things on TV. Grieving, yes, but without someone narrating my grief for me. One night my sister asked how I was really doing. I told her the truth. I missed the person I thought my wife was. But I didn't miss the marriage. That distinction felt important, like a small but crucial step toward letting go. Acceptance wasn't a single moment. It came in fragments, sneaking up on me in ways I didn't expect. Like the first time I realized I hadn't checked my phone in hours, and my chest didn't feel tight. Or when I caught myself making plans for the future without automatically factoring her in. Another twist. She tried one last narrative reset. Sent me a carefully worded email, calm, reflective, almost reasonable. She admitted she'd handled things poorly, but framed it as mutual dysfunction. Said we were two wounded people triggering each other. She suggested we might reconnect someday when the emotions settle. Reading it, I felt a flicker of the old pull. Then I reread it. Nowhere did she actually take responsibility. No apology without a qualifier. No acknowledgement of the lies. Just enough softness to reopen the door. That's when acceptance finally clicked. Not that she cheated. Not even that she was manipulative. But that she was never going to meet me where I needed her to. Closure wasn't something she could give me. It was something I had to stop asking for. I replied once. Short, polite, final. I told her I wished her well and asked her to direct future communication through our lawyers. Hitting send felt heavy but clean. Acceptance, I learned, isn't about understanding everything. It's about deciding what you're done carrying. So here I am, weeks later, typing this out because I wish someone had handed me this perspective earlier. The biggest lesson wasn't about infidelity. Cheating was just the loudest symptom. The real damage came from the constant rewriting of reality, being told my pain was a problem, that my instincts were flaws, that love meant enduring confusion. I learned that manipulation doesn't always look cruel at first. Sometimes it looks articulate, calm, reasonable. It uses empathy as leverage and guilt as glue. If you feel like you're always explaining yourself, apologizing for your feelings, or doubting memories you were once sure of, pause. That matters. I also learned that leaving doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes staying is the thing that costs you everything. Walking away didn't fix me overnight, but it gave me room to heal without someone actively reopening the wound. If you're reading this while lying awake, scrolling for answers, here's my advice. Trust patterns, not promises. Watch actions, not tears. And don't wait for the other person to understand your pain before you protect yourself. I love my wife, or at least who I thought she was. Letting go hurt like hell, but losing myself would have hurt more. Thanks for reading. If this helps even one person feel less crazy, it was worth posting.